will start. Whether or not it's the one that people are watching, if anyone's watching, I don't know.
Right. Just looking back on the live stream.
So it's now custom streaming, so it'd be interesting to see what's happening.
Can you record the Zoom meeting itself?
No, it's working. It's working absolutely fine. It has gone live.
Oh, is it?
So yes, you can do that.
Okay. All right. Might add it on to the end of the planning committee, though. Might be the only thing.
No, it's conflict. It's the live feed for finance is what started.
Oh, okay. Sorry. You substituted them. Sorry. Okay. Right then. Let's go. I don't know whether Tony's around. See, he's there, but oh, he's gone. Right. Welcome everybody to the finance meeting of Tuesday, the 20th of October. Obviously, we're recording this, so be careful what you say. Don't make any nasty comments or anything. Apologies for absence, please.
I don't have any apologies. We're expecting Councillor Fox, Councillor Hanlon and Councillor Miller-Jones to join at some point.
Councillor
You are there, you are. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. Item 3, declarations of interest and requests for dispensations.
Understood.
I can't see anybody putting their hands up either. Okay. Item 4, minutes of the last meeting held on the 20th of July. Next, I've just managed to close down my Dropbox. Stupidly. Right, I guess you've all read them. Can I have a proposer, please? Is that Councillor Hanlon, you proposing? Yeah. Anybody seconding? Councillor Bruce Davison was seconded there. Okay, can I have a show of hands, please? I'm trying to remember it's on the committee because there's so many people here. Okay, that was passed, thank you. Right, item number 5, actions from those minutes. Page 10.
So we have a standard action that's on there, which is reviewing the booking terms and conditions. As I said last time, the operations manager is looking at those terms and conditions. We do have a set that matched the last set of government guidelines. We're expecting one of the groups to restart, but subsequently they've changed their minds and are not restarting. So unless Martin knows different, it's my understanding that there aren't any groups using the Leyston Centre at the moment.
Not currently, Colin, no.
Thank you.
Can I just confirm, Colin, very quickly, is have they been written, that thing, or are we just still?
I'm assured by the operations manager that he's been updating them as the COVID-19 guidelines change, because the terms and conditions change, particularly in terms of responsibility and cleaning, etc. And there are all sorts of rules about tables have been allocated to particular groups and chairs, etc., so that each group that could theoretically use the Leyston Centre would only use the ones that they've been allocated, but nobody's using it. The thing is, it all got going after the last finance meeting, and a certain level of excitement grew that we would unlock, bearing in mind that the groups using the Leyston Centre were either providing services that were the last to be allowed to start again, or they were vulnerable people. And of course, in August, just when the shielding they announced that the shielding was going to end, Boris Johnson then announced that they were stopping the process of relaxing the lockdown. And of course, since then, it's been going the opposite direction. So nobody's actually using the centre at the moment. And that's not stopping them, that's them not wanting to.
Okay, that's fine. I was a bit worried that we hadn't done anything at all, but obviously not. Going down, I assume nobody else got anything on page 11. Sorry, Councillor David Smith.
So can I just confirm then that we are actually taking bookings for Leyton Centre if people want to use it? Because I didn't realise we were.
My understanding is that we're not getting requests for bookings for the Leyton Centre. At least, if the only bookings that we would be having that aren't regular bookings would be things like people wanting to hold parties, etc., which we wouldn't be accepting at this point anyway.
I'm not aware of any bookings being placed at this time.
Okay. Sorry, item 11 about Barclays application at all.
To be honest, I'm not actually progressing that as a live matter at the moment. There's quite enough to be doing without that one.
Okay, that's fine. Item C, the cleaning contract side of things.
Well, yes. So there's been discussions with officers, etc., and I even actually this morning I forwarded Gary a copy of a tendering exercise that another council has been doing. So they're well aware of the fact that that has to go out for tender, although at the moment the discussion is leaning towards, as you will recall from the extraordinary meeting that you held only last week, that Nick was saying that part of the regime would be that the staff themselves would do the cleaning. Our own staff would do the cleaning. So it remains the case. Tendering is very difficult. You know, we're not tendering for anything at the moment because it's very difficult to know what we're supposed to tender for.
Yeah, my personal view is we need to make sure that request for information or request for quote is, you know, as comprehensive as we can get it. So we have some KPIs to go against ever, you know, if we ever do get a cleaner of some sort.
Yes, I mean, that will go to the tendering group.
Yeah. Okay, the working group on tendering met, so that's right. Panto cost analysis, I guess we're not doing anything on that now.
No, the Finance Minister Martin has confirmed that we do have access to the 2019 rota. You may recall that the Arts and Leisure Manager described the potential for a almost bespoke show to be put on. At this stage, there's no decisions been taken over that, but we have established that we actually now, with the work that Martin's done, we have all the data to hand that we can have a proper costing done. And I think that's something we can safely say that the Art and Leisure Manager will be able to provide a full costing of a panto show if one is possible to put on.
Okay, page 12, nothing on there. Everyone else happy with that? No other comments? I can't see any hands up. Thank you very much. Right, let's item 6, public forum. I presume nobody's.
No, we have nobody asking to join the meeting.
Okay, let's quickly on to item 7 then. RFO report, which you've all had subsequently. Town Council budget report. Colin?
Yes, okay, so part 1, you can see the numbers there, and then part 2, the budget report. Yeah, the figures look, in terms of the amount of money that might be available to the council, looks quite impressive number, but we have to be just slightly careful in what is going to be expenditure that will eventually come back, and which is income that's definitely and utterly lost. As far as I can see, in terms of 200 art and leisure, 300 arts centre and 502 the zone, those are the big things. And I can't see that there's, unless we say to Nick that you can reallocate underspend into doing something special later. What's done is done as far as those costs are concerned. You know, we've cancelled the summer events. The summer events are not going to happen. The exception to that is that the for 400, which is community, that actually shows things like grants, etc. And we've you'll be aware, and you may actually only be aware by the dint of me actually saying it. Nobody is applying for grants. It's because the groups that historically apply for grants aren't meeting, and it probably hasn't occurred to them that they haven't applied for grants because they're not having committee meetings. I know plenty of groups that are simply not having committee meetings because they don't have Zoom, they don't have computers themselves personally. So if they're not able to meet, they're not able to meet as a committee either. But that could change. And we may also want to think about whether or not we simply grab that money back, or it might be in later discussions in this meeting that we want to ring fence some of that money for an enhanced grant scheme in the next financial year to provide support, because no doubt there will be support needed. There will be some groups that the difference between getting a bit of income in the year and no income at all is a difference between them being able to survive and not able to survive. I think it was at the very beginning of the pandemic, the councillors expressed a desire that the grant scheme be used to help support voluntary organisations that financially struggle as a result of the pandemic. And I think the fact that they haven't applied doesn't mean they're not struggling. The zone 502, this is the reverse to everything else. The zone relies on trading to break even. Unlike the Arts Centre, if the zone is closed, the zone is losing money. I've asked Sandra to focus on getting the zone open as soon as possible, and they're aiming for the 3rd of November. Even if it can only open in a fairly rudimentary way, there's a reasonable chance that the added cost is going to be less than the income, down to the fact that almost all our costs are fixed. So we are paying our staff. We have an electricity bill, we have a heating bill, we are renting the place, we are paying rates. So all of those things happen whether or not it's open. If we're open, although we're unlikely to make an overall profit, I would hope we would dent any form of loss to cover our variables for opening, and also make a contribution towards the fixed overheads there as well. Do there's any other comments? Most of it's self-explanatory. There's also, of course, the volunteer centre and the Christmas lights are all coming out of 400 as well. So,
okay.
Go on.
Councillor Hamden, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, on the zone one, will that be, you said November it's going to open. Will that be also the cafeteria as well?
Yes.
Oh, right. So obviously you'll be taking COVID precautions on that sort of thing, like tables at certain distance and things like that.
Yeah.
I assume that will cut down the amount of people.
Yes, I've had a look around the zone, and they've managed to apply social distancing measures. It obviously does reduce the capacity of the zone. People have to sit at their tables, and there's a kind of a waiting service rather than people going up to the bar to ask for their food. So that it's only our own staff who are moving around, and they've got all the visors and all the rest of it. And I understand the menu is a restricted menu. That's basically to avoid us having to have too much in the way of perishable stock. I think we have to try and hedge our bets a little bit, that we may find that we open and then have to close again. So if we do open, we'll be able to serve food, and yeah, that's quite an important dynamic as far as funding for the zone is concerned.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. I'm going to carry on. No comments. I can't see any. I can't see Tony Brown or David Roach. I don't know if they've got any comments. But carry on anyway. Have you got
Okay.
anything?
Sorry?
Nothing. I can see it now.
Yeah, nothing from me, Chair. It's all fairly straight.
Okay. That's
Forward.
fine. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. Carry on, Colin. There.
Okay, so just on the bank reconciliation, all fairly straightforward. Since the 30th of September, we have called down £100,000 and then another £200,000. That's 32-day notice, but about 12 days apart. And that's basically to make sure that we have sufficient wherewithal to take us across the Christmas period. Otherwise, it's fairly straightforward. Debtors and creditors, I think we'll probably come back to in just a moment rather than take it here.
Okay. And just to confirm, I went down the Arts Centre. I thought it was today, but it was yesterday. And I checked all the bank statements for all the heart seats, everything. So that's been done as well.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. Okay, so heart seats. Now here, we all need to bear in mind that councillors are the corporate trustee of the community trust, and the community trust owns heart seats, shares that are held by myself and Councillor Hanlon as directors of heart seats. I'm the company secretary. So wearing my company secretary hat, I've written to the town council to say that heart seats no longer requires the town council to provide staff. And we will also need to look at whether or not we can recover, as far as heart seats is concerned, the bill that we got for staffing between March and the end of June, when we didn't really appreciate quite what the implications of the pandemic were. Heart seats, the biggest cost by a long chalk is the cost of paying for staff that are provided. Other costs is particularly rent, and there is an argument that the rent that we're being charged is rent for a period of time at which we weren't actually allowed to operate as an entity. The town council as trustee closed down the arts centre and the zone, so we were not able to operate as a limited company. Clearly, the implications for heart seats are that if the landlord and the town council do nothing, heart seats has an unsustainable bill. So we will probably need to talk about that in some more depth at some point. But I think at the moment, town councillors just need to know that Heart Seats is trying its best to batten down the hatches. as much as it possibly can.
Can't see any hands up, so carry on.
There's not much in the bank reconciliation there. Then we get on to the community trust. The figures there again are fairly self-explanatory in terms of how it's operated. I'm expecting, although I have not yet received it, a request from the local history group to waive the rent for the fact they weren't able to open. I know that the local history group had asked if they could reopen, and I don't know whether Martin's heard any more about that, but I suspect that probably they may be changing their minds.
They have been in recently 1 day a week on Mondays
Okay.
for the last 2 or 3 weeks.
But it's not actually open to the public except by appointment, I assume.
That's right. Yeah. No, there's no public, I think, at all. It's only allowing them to go in and do a bit of research themselves.
They're generally in for a few hours on a Monday morning.
Okay. So the town council gives the local history group a grant. They've not applied for that grant. That grant is used to pay the community trust rent, and that rent offsets the need for the town council to give a grant to the community trust by the same amount. And there you see the bank reconciliation with some debtors. We then turn to the debtors. What I've said to Martin is, Martin and I, a week or so ago, went through in quite some detail the debtors, what I'm going to ask Martin to just explain the debtors we've got, but I want to say in advance of that to councillors, so you have it in mind when you hear what Martin says, that my recommendation to you is that it's not in the public interest to chase many of these debts at this stage. So if Martin, if you want to run through those ones.
Yes. Do I actually click on my photograph, bring me back up on screen? Is that how it works?
No, we can see you.
You can see me. I just can't see myself. Okay, that's fine.
What can you see?
Okay. Well, as you would see, if you look through each set of debtors, as always, we pay ourselves last. So there are a number of intercompany or interorganisational payments that need to be made fairly shortly, but obviously we can deal with those quite easily. Since the last meeting, I have made quite a concerted effort on chasing down some of the debts, and as at the end of September, there were only 5 debtors aside of the intercompany ones at all. And mindful of the fact that Colin had already asked me not to sort of chase these debts very, very fiercely, I've actually spent some time today talking to the 5 debtors in question, and I've had some quite positive results without playing hardball. On the town council, we're showing debtors of £815.80. Having actually made contact with 2 of the debtors, if you actually turn to page, or it's the last page of your report, it actually gives you the analysis of those debts. The 2 larger debts, the national organisation £360, it appears that there was some miscommunication about a cancellation of a booking going back to July, perhaps I think it was actually earlier, although it shows as July, in actual fact it turns out to be earlier than that, where they actually cancelled the booking, and we didn't raise a credit note. Now there might be an argument to say that perhaps we should have charged them a cancellation charge because we could have rebooked the auditorium. That didn't happen. So rather than there being a debt of £360, we should have raised a credit note to cancel that invoice out. So there is really no debt there. The local group owing £270. Beg your pardon?
Martin, you just want to say who that, you can say who those groups are, by the way.
The national organisation was the Blood Transfusion Service, who had a long-standing relationship with the Arts Centre, but cancelled their bookings last year and haven't returned since. The local group I was just about to come on to was the Haverhill Fellowship, and they run a series of health seminars each year. And whilst they acknowledge that £270 is outstanding from 2019, in December 2019, they paid £300 as deposits for health seminars for 2020, which were post-lockdown. So none of those events have actually been able to go ahead. So we actually owe them their deposits back. So that will cover the debt of £270 from 2019. So I've agreed to settle that with them in the next few days. So again, not actually, there was a debt, but it's been covered by payments that they've made this year. The local group owing £36.80 was Haverhill Running Club. And I did get in contact with them today, and they tell me that when I wrote to them in August, they have been trying to contact me ever since, but I've not had a call or a message from them. Nevertheless, they have actually settled that debt today, so the £36.80 has been paid. And the final group is the bingo group that meet or used to meet on a Monday evening at the Arts Centre, and they owed 2 invoices, one of which the lady in question has the cash at home and will be bringing down to the Arts Centre in the next few days. The balance of around £84, she claims she has a receipt for having paid that. I haven't been able to locate that income yet, but she is going to bring the receipt with her so that I can look at that in the next few days. So aside of that £84, all those debts have been resolved today. That's
must be community trust debts.
Beg your pardon, Colin?
Must be some community trust debts as well then.
There's one on the community trust now, which is £72.50. And that is from the lady who runs Zumba classes at the Leaston. We put a payment plan in place with her because she's always struggled to keep up with her invoices. And in the last few months, not only has she not been able to run her classes, but she lost her job as well. And I contacted her today, and that situation hasn't changed. And although I actually said to her, well, just hang fire for the moment, don't do anything for the time being, she did send me a message later today to say that she's paid £30 of the £72.50 and plans to pay the balance by the end of the month. So obviously it's a bit of a struggle for her at the moment, so I don't know if we want to see that £42.50. I had asked her specifically not to do anything for the time being, but she insisted on making the £30 payment today.
Don't think there's anyone got their hands up. The only thing I was going to say was, you know, obviously this kind of thing is a lot of us done this at work, you know, with debtors and writing off debt and all that sort of stuff. Is I wonder if we spend too much time, particularly on the small amounts, chasing, and equally those ones you mentioned, Martin. You know, like national, you know, like blood transfusion service and all that sort of stuff. Is I don't know why we get into this pickle of, you know, we still owe them money and they owe us money or whatever. We, you know, you just offset one against the other and say goodbye, sort of thing. Is there any way that we can? I just worry about you spending your time and Colin spending his time and everybody else chasing things that really have no sort of real consequence. Maybe is not the right word, but you know what I mean.
Well, what I would say, John, is that given taking advantage of the lockdown situation, so hopefully within a week we won't have any debts at all. And this is the first time in my 5 years working at the council that we've been in this position.
That's good.
So I think we've got to use that opportunity to make sure, like you say, that we don't get into that situation again, so that we do keep on top of them. I had, just before we locked down, I had started to work more closely with Mary Argent, who does a lot of the invoicing. Because she's obviously got a lot of the personal contacts. So obviously if things do get back to normal, I'll obviously continue that process as well.
Yeah, we may need to get some stuff in. Councillor Davidson, you're muted, Bruce.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah.
Is it possible for you to tell me who the person is that still owes you the £42.50? Is it Kerry Cox by any chance?
It is indeed.
Yeah, I certainly move that we just waive that. I know her really, really well, and she's a very conscientious young lady. And yes, she has lost her main job, and she's obviously not been able to do her Zumba classes.
No, she's tried her best to keep up with the payments over the last few months, and we've worked quite closely together to
I think she would appreciate if we just write that £42.50 off.
All right, can I have a second for writing that amount of money off? Well, I'll second it, no problem. I'll second it. So all those in favour of writing that £42.50 off? Yeah, that's carried. Martin, just tell her that.
Okay, will do.
Was any other comments on the IFO report? I don't know, Colin, have you got anything else to say, Colin, or not?
Well, I'll just say that I think it's important that I mean, certainly we hope to be in the situation soon where people are hiring things again, and I think we need to start as we need to go on. And I think a very clear regime for billing, etc. I think it's been made. I entirely understand and would support that the people who have the relationship with the hirers should be kind of the face of the council. But they need to defer to Martin perhaps slightly earlier in the process than they do, and perhaps we need to separate out the kind of reception duties of people agreeing bookings with any of the actual invoicing for services, because that seems to be where things go a bit wrong. Casual conversations and personal conversations that take place and arrangements are made, and I think it needs to be slightly more formal when it comes to the money. And of course, payment up front would make life an awful lot easier. It's now okay, we're not doing anything at the moment, but it was just before the lockdown, it was becoming the norm that everyone was paying in advance. Now we've got ourselves a clean slate. Everybody could start payment in advance.
Have you got your hand up, Councillor Smith, or not? No, okay, sorry. I was going to thank Martin anyway for work on this, and Colin, obviously. And I fully support what Colin just said. Is I think we need, and we've mentioned it before, we need a standard set of rates to book a room, wherever it may be, or something that staff can refer to. So someone does come in over reception, says, how much is it to rent a main room at the Leyston, for example? It's this amount of money. And equally, there has to be a procedure, I would argue, that from the booking form all the way through to the invoice, it needs to be a proper flow of data that nothing gets missed off. So I fully support whatever we could do after that. But thank you, Martin, for your help on that particularly, and Colin, obviously. Anyone else got any comments on the RFO report? Can't see anything. Tony's disappeared. But... Okay, let's move on to I don't know if you had anything. I say, okay, thanks, Tony. Sorry. Should we move on to item 8 then, very quickly, to exclude the press and public? Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Roach, seconder. Councillor Liz Smith. All those in favour, please show. You're going to stop the live stream, Colin.